Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Xenia Rubinos album, Black Terry Cat. Xenia Rubinos is a New York singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and she is now following up her, I believe it was self-released, but it ended up on Bada Bing Records, maybe it wasn't self-released, debut full-length record, Magic Tricks, dropped in 2012, and from Bada Bing Records she signed straight to indie heavyweight Anti Records, which this new album is on. She had a couple of solid singles leading up to the release of this thing, Lonely Lover and Black Stars. My buddy Jeremy actually did an interview with her not too long ago about her songwriting process and the creation of this new record, and I was just looking forward to it. That's all I could say. And I'm pretty happy with the results. I'm mostly impressed with the really cool mix of influences that are flowing throughout this record. There are moments where this album comes off very funky, soulful, smooth, reads to me a little bit like maybe some Erykah Badu or some contemporary R&B like from the 90s or the 2000s, maybe a little bit of Lauryn Hill. But there are other moments on here where there's clearly an influence coming from singer-songwriters such as maybe Fiona Apple or maybe people from the indie set like Fiery Furnaces, a little bit of Tune Yards, though maybe not a direct influence. I think Miss Rubino's here shares quite a bit in common with Tune Yards. I think stylistically they pull from a lot of the same places, a lot of very beat-centric and Afro-centric music. And there were some pretty meaty beats on this record. No doubt there's a hip-hop influence going on in the production. While the instrumentation a lot of the time sounds very organic, it's very snapped, looped, tight, and rhythmic like a hip-hop beat would be. And the production is a little rough, to the point where I think it sort of takes away from the songs slightly. Maybe the vocals are a little muddier than I would like them to be. Just wish the EQing and the recording on them was a little more crisp, especially as the vocals are occasionally layered and harmonized on top of one another, and the slight muddiness becomes even more apparent. Some of the synth patches here and there I think could have been better, especially some of the farty synth bass lines. But generally the rough production gives a lot of the instrumentation here some nice grit, especially the drums, which are very punchy, like on the song Black Stars, where the drums are mixed with this really great piano phrasing that are looped over and over very tightly. Doom, bun, dun, dun, doom, bun, dun, dun. Very funky loops, and the synths that end up later in the track, along with the hand percussion, definitely adds a nice extra bit of texture. And not every moment feels like a beat. I mean, we have these tracks like Black Stars, and then on the flip side, the song Just Like is kind of a piece of punked out, lo-fi-ish hard rock that sounds like it could have come from the early days of the White Stripes. The upright bass loops and the kind of tinny keyboards on the song I Won't Say are pretty impressive too. Definitely some ear-grabbing sounds there. And the composition here is just hectic. The latter half of it sounds completely different from the first half. The groove is so awkward. The vocals are kind of wild to the point where they're slightly off-putting. And the tense piano phrases and the woodwinds on the closing track here are beautiful too, very colorful. The odd time signature on this track definitely makes this track stand out apart from many others in the track listing. And this song also features one of the most fun vocal performances on the entire record, dipping a little bit into spoken word on occasion. And then we have a bustling, funky beat like Mexican Chef. I could really go into each instrumental here because every one has its own little quirks, flaws, and flavors. Some of which I love, some of which I'm sort of lukewarm on, but mostly hits for me. The grooves on these tracks are sharp. Even when I'm not like totally in love with the song, I have to give it to the grooves. And there's some nice musical variety on this record. There's a spectrum, as I was saying. You have tracks that are very smooth, very soulful, lovely, gentle, like Don't Wanna Be. And then you have See Them, which is just a little fringe, it's a little odd and slightly grating. And as I dive into the album more and more, I'm equally impressed with the lyrics that are brought to the table too. Whether that be tracks that are diving into love, or a song like Just Like I, which seems to deal in family and family traits. I get the sense that she's picking up bad habits or characteristics from people who she's close with, like in her bloodline or something. I can't quite tell, but there is a really standout couple of lines where she says that her teeth, she smiles with them, but she also bites you with them. Her lips, she kisses with them, but she also lies with them. The song Mexican Chef is about brown people, who she blatantly refers to them as in the track. And it's basically about how brown people are kind of the gears that are turning in America, keeping things going. You have a Chinese restaurant, you have an Italian restaurant, you have a French restaurant, and who's working there behind the scenes, keeping things going, making sure things are working? It's brown people. And the track isn't about stereotyping or shoving people in these remedial positions and saying, hey, you should be here, you should stay there. It's more about respecting the fact that because these people take on these jobs, life is probably easier for you. I mean, having worked 10 years in food service myself, I can attest to pretty much everything that's being sung in this song. And themes of race and politics, it seems that Senya is not shying away from them on this project at all. They come up again and again and again at a myriad of different angles. On the song RIGHT, it's almost as if she's being just sucked in and almost depressed or destroyed by the pressures of the world. She's talking about the world blowing up on this track, and by the end of the song, wishing she was a time traveler. The song See Them, there's this amazing refrain where she sings, "How do you spell angry brown girl?" There's definitely a seething, fiery passion to do something or change things or just or rebel against these pressures throughout a lot of these songs. On the song Laugh Clown, she's singing about how when the world sort of pushes her down, makes life harder, she feels like a clown, a term someone usually throws on themselves when they feel like the butt of a joke or someone who's being just battered by the world. But she takes this opportunity to apply this label and then say, well, now that I feel like a clown, I'm going to laugh. And the song kicks off in an interesting way with her singing about how she hasn't plucked her eyebrows in a while. One day she's going to let her mustache grow back in. And the idea of vanity and sort of how you look comes back on the song Won't Say as well. Where not only is she singing about losing yourself or losing your identity and becoming obsessed with beauty in the midst of selfie culture, but she's also bringing up these black features and evidence of someone being ashamed of them in a way, because she's singing about not just curly hair, but hair that's been fried to the point where it's straight, skin that's been bleached till it's brighter. So there are a lot of pretty deep-seated and very personal issues being explored throughout this LP, and they're all done pretty tastefully. Maybe occasionally with a very colorful or overacted vocal here and there. But again, my primary issue with the vocals is just I think they could have been mixed and EQ'd a little bit better. That's really the Achilles heel with this record. I think it's the production. But still, despite that, I think the great songs, the great performances, the interesting instrumental ideas, the very funky beats and grooves all shine through. I just can't help but think of how much more palatable Senya's music would be, and not just to me, but I mean to a wider audience, if just the production was a little bigger, a little more vibrant, just had a bit more of a professional edge to it. This sounds a little DIY, and I can totally appreciate that, because despite the fact that it sounds like this project wasn't done in a big budget studio, they certainly got a lot done, and they've put together some very interesting musical ideas and worked together some very intricate details, especially on the tracks where the grooves and the beats are like an odd time signatures. I think this album's got a lot going for it. I wish the flow was a little better too. It really does kind of feel like a collection of tracks. The closing track doesn't exactly tie things up all that well, and all the interlude cuts I wouldn't really say add to the album experience all that much. And again, the production I think could have been improved, but everything else about this project, I really don't have that many complaints about. Very impressed and looking forward to what Xenia brings to us in the future. Feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this thing. Tran.
Position! Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. What should I review next? Hit that like if you like Please subscribe. Please don't cry if you happen to disagree with this review. Black Terry Cat, hope you're doing well. Eat some fruits and veggies. Stay hydrated. And have a nice day. Forever.